Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
And here we are. How's it going, guys?
Right before going live, I knocked over a whole bunch of games all over my desk. I'm trying to clean it up real quick.
Oh, well.
I feel like I have something happen like that almost every show. Something goes wrong right before.
I've got my Bolo beer all ready to go here.
Oh, nice. Pete's bowl of beer.
Got to have the bowl of beer, man. Got to have the bowl of beer. Lance on there. How you doing, Lance? This is going to be an interesting show, I think. This is like, we've talked about this so much. Hey, Salvador, good to see you, guys. Right on. Good to see you. We've talked so much about this show, eh, Jeff? We've talked about it.
Oh, yeah. Wait, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear myself for a second there, too, but.
Okay. I think that was my fault. I'm trying to pull up the chat. Hey, your son's here.
He was up at the very top. I don't know. Is he back?
I don't know. Oh, yeah. He was at the very top.
Yeah.
I really like this show, Dark Side of the Ring. I think it's so good that I even recommend it to people who aren't into wrestling.
Agreed. 100%.
Because it's kind of irrelevant. They're just interesting stories. Doesn't matter if it's wrestling or not.
Yeah. That wrestling has so many interesting stories in it, like stuff that I consider myself fairly much in the know. I've read a lot about wrestling. I've followed it for basically my whole life to some degree, and gone back and looked at history a lot, and they still come up with things that I didn't really know anything about. It's amazing. Hey, see you, Retro. Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah, I think you're familiar with a lot more than I am on this show. So that's another reason I really like. I'm learning a lot of stuff I didn't even know about.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Hey, Chris says, love is Dark Side of the Ring. It's a phenomenal show, and I dare say there's been a lot of really good wrestling documentaries that I've enjoyed. Like Beyond the Mat was great.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I'm trying to think of what other ones that I've watched. Oh my God, there's other ones for sure.
There's
Wrestling with Shadows is excellent.
Was Jake the Snake in? Was it Beyond the Mat?
Beyond the Mat. Then there's also there's a Jake the Snake documentary.
Yeah, he's got two of them. He's in two of them, and the one's just about him. I really liked both of them. Did you see the Andre the Giant documentary? I think it may have been on HBO, maybe
the HBO one. Yeah,
I did. It was interesting to see his early life because I knew nothing about his early life.
As Andre Rene Roussemoff, and I mean, he came over to Canada, but he was born in France. He came over to Canada, they brought him in and broke him into Quebec because it was the most closest culture to him, right?
I like that he was wrestling. I think it wasn't his wrestling name when he came over, the Giant Fairy.
And something like that. Yeah, I can't remember.
Giant Fairy in the name, and one of the promoters was like, "You're not going to wrestle under Fairy, under the Giant Fairy." So he literally the promoter at the time, I don't know who it was, but he gave him his name. When he billed him, he just billed him as Andre the Giant. It's kind of funny that that's how he got his name.
I know, yeah.
Wrestling name.
Yeah. And of course, there might have been a language barrier there too if it was out of Quebec that he got the thing. So true. Yeah, I started watching it in the 70s when I was probably about 8 or 9. We used to get it pre WWF. They used to watch it on Channel 5, WABI TV, Bangor, Maine. CBS channel. It used to be on at like 12:15 at night on Saturday nights, and then it was on Sunday afternoons, and it ended up being on about 3 times a week. Vince McMahon Jr. was the announcer, even though he announced for years into it after he actually ran it. This is even before that. And man, I remember all that. Then up through the 80s and 90s, and then to hear these stories of the stuff, like we heard the stuff from the WWF because that was our territory up here. I'm up just off I'm beside Maine. So that's what we got. We got WWF and we got Atlantic Grand Prix were our two local territories. And so we saw that, and we're just lucky enough that WWF is what really ended up being the big one. But I didn't know anything about these other ones down south. So Von Erichs, I didn't know anything about them until years later. For example,
we were lucky enough here on one of our local channels. They showed the Von Erichs. I can't remember what wrestling outfit it was. Like they had their own TV channel down there. I can't remember what it was called, but they showed that here. So I grew up watching the Von Erichs every week. Them and their fights with the who was it? The Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah. And any of the St. Louis wrestling you would have watched, right? Because that was where you grew up.
Yeah. So yeah, I grew up with NWA, and then also with the Texas wrestling, just because our local channel, same one that showed Wrestling at the Chase here, they showed the Von Erichs. And I also remember, I think once we got cable in the early 80s, on CBS, we watched, and I can't remember what it was. It was hosted by Gordon Soley.
Well, that was like the original World Championship Wrestling in WCW, the precursor to WCW, right? Georgia Championship Wrestling, it might even have been.
Yeah, I think it was that. That was. They did a lot of talking on that show for some reason. I think they talked as much as they wrestled.
Hey, Jeff, good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in.
Roddy Piper would get out and he'd do like a 10-minute long monologue. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's the glass from the 83 arcade. I'm just drinking. Right now, I'm having a 9 Locks Dirty Blonde. I've had those quite a bit before, but I have to go about an hour to get them. So I think it's my last one I have in the house, actually. They're a Nova Scotia beer, but I really do enjoy it. Yeah.
I just found out we have a service here, Pete, that it's kind of like an Instacart thing, but it's just for booze. You can just go in there and tell them what beer or liquor you want, and they'll just deliver right to the door.
That's amazing. Urban areas, right? I live too far out in the woods. I mean, it's an hour in between towns, for Pete's sakes, up here. Here it is. Lance has it. World Class Championship Wrestling was the Dallas Von Erich territory. WCCW, which I think sort of in part and parcel morphed into the TBS. And I don't know. I don't know that history that well. I'm enjoying these shows so much.
The Von Erichs also, they wrestled in St. Louis a lot because even our local Wrestling at the Chase show, David Von Erich, David Carey, and Kevin were on a lot.
Okay.
And the one wrestling event I ever went to in my life, David Von Erich was wrestling. So
okay,
it's kind of cool to see him because I always thought he was the best of the Von Erichs. I thought he was really good.
Now we were sitting here getting ready for tonight, thinking about I was sitting here. I got supper over with and blah 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 blah. It's about 8 o'clock, and so it starts at this show it's 9 o'clock Papa Pete time. So it's Atlantic time, but so I had about an hour ahead of time. So I flipped one on. I'm going to go through them all, some of these older ones, and I happened to flip on the Von Erich one because I know that I don't know much about the Von Erichs. I had watched the show. I've seen all of them, but I do how much you really do like the Von Erichs. They were the top faces back in your day when you were growing up, right, Jeff?
Oh yeah, and they were some of my favorites. I remember watching. On our local show, David Von Erich and Harley Race had a bunch of battles. There was one classic where they put each other in the claw. It was just hilarious. They were both like bleeding from the head, and they were both kind of falling asleep. It was just I've never seen two claws put on in one match at the same time.
That's pretty friggin' wild.
That was funny.
I had seen probably in the 90s on the national sports channel up here was called TSN. It's now been bought by ESPN, so it's all the same branding and such, but it's still called TSN. But back then, they used to show a lot of old wrestling, and they used to show a lot of AWA and UWF and even a lot of the southern, like St. Louis wrestling and stuff, that's where you would just all of a sudden watch. It'd be a 15, 20-year-old show from down south. That's where I learned first about a lot of these other wrestlers who I had seen in magazines and stuff, but not actually seen wrestle. So, but were the Von Erichs, though, Jeff, were they actually in your territory, or were they just in the next territory and they did a lot of this to sort of, promote both territories, like bring the top stars up?
I don't know. They were in St. Louis a lot, so I assumed they were floating between Texas and the NWA territory.
Right. I mean, all promoters, they'd have their top stars, and they'd farm them out to different promotions all around for
that may have been
both
promoters. Yeah, that may have been the case, but I do know they were on a lot.
Yeah.
I remember David came first, and then Kevin, and then Kerry was like the youngest of the first three.
Yeah.
And
Kevin is the one who in the show is still alive, correct?
Yes, he's the only one left. He's the one that wrestled barefooted too.
Okay, he is the second oldest, or at least the second one to start.
Well, the Von Erich says, I didn't realize this, but watching the Von Erich episode, they said that they had the oldest brother died. He was electrocuted when he was like 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, so there were 6 brothers. The one was, there was 6 brothers. The one died early, and then 4 killed themselves, and then Kevin.
Jeez.
Yeah, Kerry was the Texas tornado at one time.
I think that's a proposition for me right there, isn't it?
Well, I think you got your weekend plan there, Pete.
Maybe we should go on a beer tour this weekend. There you go. We've been known to do that from time to time.
And I was telling you a few days ago, there was on Saturday night here in St. Louis, they were doing a wrestling match. It was one of those local ones.
Yes.
That if you watch on YouTube, apparently there's a lot of these all around the country. And I got to see if the one that's here in St. Louis, if it's on YouTube. I haven't looked for it yet. But I would like to go see one in person.
Well, like I was telling you the other day, we were talking about this a little bit. We had one in St. John, New Brunswick called XWA, and it basically was being run by a fella who was the actual wrestler booker. I think 2 of them in partnership put the program together, and they probably had a group of about 25 to 30 wrestlers and personalities. They had ring announcers, they had valets, they had everything, and they put on these shows in one of the local high schools in St. John or one of the arenas in the summertime when it was ice was out, right? And they did great jobs because these people were into it like nobody else. And 64-bit and Connor and I would go up every month and see their event. They come down here a couple times, and we went, and Connor was in the one fella had Connor in the ring there one time, and Connor used to go and talk to him all the time. And I think he was probably around, this is probably 8 or 9 years ago now, maybe. Connor would have been 13, 14. And it was just fantastic. It was fantastic. And those guys put the effort in, and they're entertaining to watch. I will say every bit as much as the big shows. Well, no, but there's a different level of respect or appreciation for the efforts of these guys who got to go to work Monday morning are putting into these wrestling shows.
I was reading Salvatore said that Roddy Piper had a muffler shop not far from where he lived.
Oh, wow. And he's up, Roddy was from Alberta originally, and he moved down into the Washington territory. I think Salvatore's from up in Washington or Oregon. And wow, that's pretty neat.
Oh, Washington, Oregon. That's a great territory for wrestling.
Dug my Piper's Pit shirt out. Yeah. Actually, this came from, I bought it at Halifax Metro Center in May 2003 during a weekend where I went down, and they taped on Monday night, they taped Raw, and on Tuesday night, they taped SmackDown in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So what was it, 18 years ago? Wow. Just over 18 years ago. And so that's how old this shirt is. I mean, it's tucked away. I don't wear it very often, right? But I had a whole bunch of wrestling shirts. We went a lot for about 5 years. So, yeah, that was pretty neat. That was back in That was the day they had Stone Cold Beer Bash on Monday night, where they had all the beer brought down to the ring, like big trays, and they had a big party with all these people after it was all over. And Eric Bischoff was there. Goldberg was there for the first time, and the ring was just covered in beer, bouncing like raindrops from when they stepped. And they did a jackhammer on Bischoff in the middle of the ring. This is all after the show, after it was the post taping info. And then the next night, of course, that was back in the day. I think they still had the big fists that come out on SmackDown, and Hulk Hogan was there as not Captain America, but Mr. America, maybe. Mr. America. He had that little thing for a while where he was a mystery. It wasn't supposed to be Hulk Hogan because he was banned, but there was this mysterious Mr. America, and it was only about less than a month later he disappeared. He had something to piss off Vince McMahon and was booted from the company again. So
what time period was that? Was that after his big rise in the WWF, or was that before?
Oh, this is 2003. So Hogan had done his big thing in the 80s. He had gone to the NWO. WCW had collapsed by about 2 years and 2 months. The big names who had guaranteed money contract, like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the big names, Goldberg, et cetera, too, were still getting paid by Turner, so they didn't go to the WWF immediately. And this was 2 years later, which is when those contracts started to run out. So the stars were rolling into WWF a little bit, the former top names from WCW. And NWO had come in as NWO, but in the WrestleMania just prior to that, I believe is the one that Hogan turned face against The Rock. And then it sort of all went on from there. So that night that I was there, those 2 days, we saw Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Triple H. I don't think we saw The Rock, but Scott Hall, Stone Cold, Hogan, everybody. We even saw that. What was his name? Oh, Zach Wyman or something. The one-legged wrestler.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, he was good too. He was freaking amazing. Now, he had no bulk to him at all, but he could move. He had one leg, like he had basically born with, or from a very young age, had one leg, and he was incredibly good. I gotta look that one up.
Here, CM Retro just said Zach Gowen.
Zach Gowen. Yep, that's it. See if I can find a picture of him.
Yeah, Salvatore mentioned Oregon. Oregon's, I think there's two regions I'd like to watch more of, like the old 80s stuff, and that's the Oregon region and AWA up in Minnesota. I think those two groups are really interesting to watch. And so much is available on YouTube now. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
I just realized one of the shows of Dark Side of the Ring was The Life and Crimes of New Jack, and he just died.
Yes. He just died here, heart attack, 58 years old, 2 weeks ago.
It's amazing he lived that long. That guy was crazy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. There's Zach Gowen in the ring. I'll turn off that thing. There's Zach Gowen in the ring going against Brock Lesnar. Yeah. He'd get around. He'd be on the top rope, jumping off the top rope, doing single leg drop kicks, and he was pretty impressive, to be quite honest. It was amazing what he could do.
I never even heard of him. I wish I would have seen that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look him up. CM Retro had a great comment. He said that he could never be eliminated from a Royal Rumble. He can get eliminated when both feet touch the ground.
Nice, Chris. Oh, I don't know whether to freaking think that. I'm laughing and totally ashamed all at the same time.
I'm over here thinking I wish I would have said that.
Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah. I don't know whether to be embarrassed or wish I had to come up with it. That's classic. Who was saying before up there, I think it was Fastback saying that sort of around Texas, because he's from Texas, Corpus Christi area, that the Von Erichs was like they were considered cursed. How could you not think that with 5 out of 6 sons gone, right?
Oh. And one of I know Dark Side of the Ring. They talk about David Von Erich's death. And I know they mentioned it in the Von Erich episode, but I'm trying to think, did they mention it in the killing of Bruiser Brody episode too? Because we found out on one of these shows that Brody was the guy, I think, that found David Von Erich dead in his room.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. in that show. I haven't watched the Brody one in a long time. I'm going to go back through and watch some of those older ones over again. I mean, the Macho Man one, I've heard that story many times because that's more of a mainstream story. The Montreal Screwjob, we've heard over and over and over again. I love Bret Hart's my favorite, man. Don't get me wrong. He's my absolute favorite, but that story's been well told. But you get a story like Bruiser Brody or a story like the Von Erichs, and we have not heard those stories a lot.
And actually, I wasn't even familiar with the Montreal Screwjob because I was not watching wrestling then.
Oh, okay. But I think that it would be fair to say, that the Montreal Screwjob, as far as a sort of a real life story coming out of the world of wrestling, is probably one of the most well knowns going. That'd be my estimation anyway. But it'd be mainstream. So, okay, looking down the chat here. Yeah, they pushed him. If he's talking about Zach Gowen again, they pushed him quite hard. But then all of a sudden, it just sort of seemed to disappear, and they never ever brought him back. He I don't know if he didn't win a belt of some sort, whether it was European or the.
Do you think maybe he was just done? Like he didn't want to do it anymore?
Maybe, but he just sort of seemed to disappear. It was kind of strange.
Sam Retro asks, he says, "Do you think the Montreal Screwjob was a work or a shoot?"
Well, I still think it was a shoot. I don't think Brett was in on it. I mean, it was, I think they screwed him over. I don't know. I guess I'll always believe that because I've seen too many different people talk about it and the reactions of too many different people. If it was a friggin' work, it's kind of amazing that, what is it? It's 24 years later, 23 and a half years later. It's not, nobody has broken and come out that it was a shoot. Not Dave Hebner, not friggin', Vince McMahon's not going to, but Michaels hasn't screwed it up because Michaels now born again. Maybe if he had to confess, he would confess. He confessed that he knew about it, which he denied. But when he became born again, he confessed. And that was part of the thing where they sort of made up back in 2010. That was the most uncomfortable hug I've ever seen in the middle of a wrestling ring when they brought Bret Hart back. But that was all part of it. Is Shawn Michaels did confess to everything that his part in it. I don't know. So I just can't think that it is a friggin' work. I just can't. Too many people were upset over it. Too many people in the know didn't know. And I'm sorry, they're good actors, but they aren't that good actor.
I knew some of the story of the killing of Bruiser Brody. But I didn't realize Tony Atlas was there because Tony Atlas was the main guy on the show talking.
Yeah.
Apparently he pretty much saw everything. And that was, I've told you this before, Bruiser Brody, or here in St. Louis, it's King Kong Brody.
Yeah.
He's my all-time favorite wrestler. And it's such a shame he died before WrestleMania because I just think he would have been a huge star.
There's no doubt.
He was huge. He was interesting. I mean, had an interesting look. He was a good wrestler. I think, I think he would have been in those early WrestleManias. I love the way he just barked throughout the whole match every time. Bark, bark.
And that's another one you see. I can remember watching in the when I was watching on TSN. Back in the 80s or 90s, late 80s or 90s, whatever. That's the only time I ever saw Bruiser Brody was in some of those old films. And I'm sure he was, I can't even remember. I can't tell you what year he died. What year was it, Jeff?
I think it was 83.
Oh, that early. Yeah, that's right. Because it was before he ever had the opportunity to go to the WWF, wasn't it?
Yeah, he probably. From what I've seen on that show and I've heard of him, it seems like he was a pretty loyal guy. So I'm not 100% sure he would have gone to the WWF by WrestleMania time, but the first WrestleMania, but he would have at some point. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe not right away, but eventually. I mean, they all kind of do, right? They all do. But yeah, the barking, like him and Jerry Blackwell. I remember Jerry Blackwell, and I brought that name up one day. And he goes, "Oh my God, you know who Jerry Blackwell is?" Oh yeah, I remember. He was about as wide as he was tall.
Crusher Blackwell.
He was awesome. He was right there. He was St. Louis guy, right?
He was in St. Louis a lot. Like Brody was in St. Louis a lot, and I think we mentioned on our show, Brody changed his name from Bruiser Brody to King Kong Brody, just for the St. Louis area because Dick the Bruiser was such a big wrestler here, and that's apparently Brody just seems like he was a really nice guy. Like he didn't want to step on his toes. He wanted to show him respect, so he changed
respect for the business.
He didn't want to use the same name as Bruiser, like Dick the Bruiser. So it's just so funny because growing up, he's King Kong Brody to me, and then I started talking to other people, and it's always, or even online, it's always Bruiser Brody. Like Bruiser Brody, I was like, what the heck is talking about? It's King Kong Brody.
I'm terrified. Every time we talk about Tony Atlas, I want to find that picture of Connor and Tony Atlas and I from the Bangor Comic-Con.
Oh my gosh, I'd like to see that myself.
Yeah, I've never shown that to you. I'll do another search for it, see if I can find it. He was great. We talked to him for 10, 15 minutes. Hey, I found it. Found the folder.
I'm not sure where Tony Atlas, where he wrestled, because I did see him, but I don't remember seeing him a lot. So my guess is I probably saw him on cable somewhere. I don't think he really was I don't think he made it to St. Louis. At least not much.
Well, he was a New York guy. He was a WWF and then trolled around. He and Rocky Johnson were the first black tag team champions, right? But I think that was pre-WWF. I think that was WWWF.
I like the extra W.
Yeah, Worldwide Wrestling. Well, shoot. No, I'm not finding it.
You think Kevin Von Erich's kids will wrestle?
Well, they certainly appeared to be in that show, but that show is 2 years old now.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely old enough. They may be wrestling somewhere. I don't even know. Maybe they're wrestling in Hawaii because I think that's where.
Yeah,
I think that's where they live now. Kevin Von Erich and his family. Kevin Von Erich in that episode seemed pretty normal to me.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
for a guy who's lost his entire family.
Yeah.
I mean, his mom and dad, but of course, that was just natural. But then he's lost 4 of his. No, there were 6 brothers, so 5. He lost all 5 of his brothers.
I'm going to take Lance's comment down here, but I agree with Saviter. That is messed up, Lance.
Wait, what was it?
Did you see it? Piper told the story of Oregon promoter Don Owen bringing Thanksgiving turkey for the wrestlers and Cornish game hen for the midget wrestlers. That is messed up, Lance.
Oh,
yeah, Lacey. That's Carrie's daughter. Wow, Lacey Von Erich is. I don't know. Is she still wrestling?
Does she go by Von Erich?
She did. I know she did at one time.
I had no idea. I also didn't realize till just lately that their name was in Von Erich.
What was it?
I don't remember, but Fritz Von Erich chose that name.
Yeah.
To make him sound
the Nazi.
The more German. Yeah, he did. He went around. What did he? Yeah, didn't he go around as a Nazi at the early?
He was a Nazi. Fritz Von Erich was a big Nazi with the iron claw.
And was it him or Baron von Raschke? Maybe both of them.
Both.
I saw posters of one of them wrestling in something called the Gestapo match, which I don't know what that is, but I'm curious as to what a Gestapo match is.
Whatever it was probably in very poor taste and would never fly nowadays.
You know what's funny is it wouldn't fly today, but back then you're talking the 60s maybe when this was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe even the 50s. for
Yeah.
Von Erich.
Some of the clips of the Von Erich was showing Fritz 56 against Whipper Billy Watson, who he's fighting.
When
56.
When Fritz Von Erich was doing his act, you're talking only like 10 years out of World War II.
Yeah,
and it's just weird. It didn't affect people like it would today. It's just such an interesting thing because everyone back then actually lived through it, and most of the people today, just due to age, did not live through that time period. But for some reason, it bothers more people now than it did then. I always find it interesting to see stuff like that. That you were like, well, this wouldn't work today.
Yeah, that's Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen were huge in Japan too. They made so much money over there. I mean, they're just anomalies for that place.
Brody was like a legend in Japan. They just loved him over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Adkisson there. It's Lance has an Adkisson was the Von Erich real name. Well, I haven't found that picture yet, but I got this one to show you anyway. Recognize that guy?
Wait a minute, who is that? Oh, Bushwhackers?
Bushwhacker Luke, yeah. That was down in Bangor as well. That's 5 or 6 years ago.
Wait a minute, who's on your shirt, Pete?
That's my Brothers Can Hug shirt, Owen and Brett. Yeah, I still have that shirt here somewhere. That's what I'll never get rid of. I bought a whole bunch of shirts right from Bret Hart himself. I don't know if they still do or not, but they have promos and stuff where you buy a shirt, you get a 8x10 autographed 8x10 from him, right? So it was always a pretty good deal. Right out of Calgary. And it's actually one of his daughters who was running the site. I remember I emailed her one time because I had something returned. So I wrote her back and sent her an email and said, hey, if I send out 4 or 5 things, would you get them signed for me? Would you get Brett to sign them? And I said, I buy a bunch of shirts and stuff all the time. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Send them out. So I sent them right out to her. She got them all signed for me and sent them back. I got like 4 or 5, about 3 pictures, and I got a couple cards right over there signed. But yeah, when it's real, when it's not type thing, right? And just by the, I don't know. It's sort of right to him in Calgary. So it was really neat to have done.
Yeah, we're talking about Dark Side of the Ring, having a bunch of things that we're not familiar with. I'm looking at the upcoming shows.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were talking about this earlier. What's the next one?
Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, right. Ultimate Warrior. Yep.
I'm excited for that because, to be honest, I mean, I know who he is. I didn't see him wrestle much because I wasn't really watching wrestling then. So I have heard since then that people hated wrestling with him. I guess he wasn't very good at not hurting you.
He was terrible. He was terrible. He was not, he was strong. He was a friggin' ox, though. He hurt everybody he wrestled.
But look at the upcoming subjects. Grizzly Smith. I'm not familiar with who that is.
That Grizzly Smith is Jake the Snake's father.
Oh, his father wrestled?
If you've seen Beyond the Mat, one of the parts of that show is when Jake the Snake goes to visit his father, Grizzly Smith. And believe me this, Grizzly Smith was not a good father. And Jake is a better father than Grizzly was. So that one's going to be interesting. And it's going to be a lot of information that I'm not familiar with, that's for sure.
And then Dynamite Kid, I know the name, but
Tom Billington, absolutely amazing wrestler. He has a book out I've read called The Dynamite Kid. It's bigger here in Canada because he did so much in Calgary. Like he came over with Davey Boy. He was a Calgary Stampede wrestler and then made it big in the WWF before his injuries really took their toll on him very quickly. He was in a wheelchair for years before he died here about 2 years ago. He was back in England, and he basically died penniless and bitter.
Yeah, those two things go together.
Yeah.
Do you have a list of the episodes? Because this other one, I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
I do. I'll let me bring it up here and I'll take a look.
I'm just curious if you recognize this person.
Right there.
Oh, he's Canadian. I bet you do know who he is then.
Which one? Which episode? After the Dynamite Kid?
After Dynamite Kid.
See, it's listed. I am on Wikipedia and it says TBA. Where are you seeing the list?
Oh, just to the right under subjects.
Oh, okay.
I'm right next to it.
Ion Kratoyo. I've never heard of this guy.
Oh, I guess that's a real name.
Born and raised in Ontario, wrestling fans. Better knows Johnny K9, Bruiser Bedlam, and Terrace Bulba.
Huh.
Including Stampede Wrestling. I do not know anything about him. I do not.
Bruiser Bedlam. What a great name.
Bruiser Bedlam, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. The subjects are right over there. The title's right there for the subject.
Man. Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. That's what they do on this, too. They'll drag guys from wrestling associations that I've never even heard of. Like Nick Gage.
Yes. Yeah.
Game Changer Wrestling. Never heard of it.
Now, just little question in here we go. Warrior was not safe blown up. Oh, okay. Listen, I want to see puts a comment. I got to post it up here. Saw him wrestle in Moncton, my first live show. That was the Ultimate Warrior. She's told me about that before.
Oh, wow.
But you're absolutely right, Lance. He was not safe. He would be blown up before the match. And if you're not familiar, blown up, he'd be out of breath. He'd be useless before the match ever started. He put in so much effort shaking the ropes and stuff. He just, it was ridiculous. Yeah.
And speaking of wrestling shows, since we're talking about this, I was watching the Steve Austin Broken Skull sessions last night.
Okay, yeah. Which one?
Sasha Banks.
Okay, yes. You told me you were watching. How was that?
Yeah, it was really good. And I've watched him with Ric Flair and The Undertaker. That show's so good because, I mean, they kind of tell you behind the scenes stuff. Like last night with Sasha Banks, they were talking about how she was learning how to wrestle. And one of the first things they learn is how to fall. You know, they try to land square on their back and then also slam their hands down at the same time. Because I guess one, it sounds better, and two, it kind of helps stabilize them and not hurt so much.
Yep.
And they mentioned it in that show last night, but I've heard it before. Every wrestler hates that chop to the chest, throat area that Ric Flair used to do all the time.
Yeah.
Every single wrestler that I've ever heard talk about says they just hate that thing. That's the thing that was pretty much one of the things they hate the most because they said it just hurts.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way to really fake it because you got to hit it hard so you can hear it.
Just open-handed slap.
Yeah. So I'm sure they're just hitting like right below, but that's got to hurt.
Oh, friggin' right. Yeah. So let's talk about this season. It's just a question. You guys in the chat, I know some of you have probably watched some of these episodes. Be ready to talk about? We'll talk about your favorite episodes because we've seen most of them. I've seen all of them. But what ones do you think that surprise you the most? That you never heard of this person, or you never heard of the incident they were talking about and how good of a show it was. I'm going to say right now, the one that was best for me was that one on the UWF, the Cowboys and Cocaine. Do you remember that one, Jeff? I can't even tell you what the guy's name is. I have to go to the
Herb Abrams.
Herb Abrams.
Yeah, that's right. He UWF. Part of his own wrestling association, right?
Yes, he did. And I can remember watching those shows on, again, TSN will pick up whatever they can pick up and they throw it on there. Afternoon shows, like on a Tuesday, you get an hour of BAWA, and then the next day be UWF. You never know what you're going to get, old, new, whatever. And but I knew nothing really other than the fact that I knew it existed.
I didn't even know
that was a cool show.
I didn't even know it existed. That whole story was so interesting about how this one guy was somehow created his own wrestling association.
Yeah. Fastback. Where do you get them, Jeff? Where do you watch them?
We pay for a streaming service called Philo, Philo.
Okay.
It's very. I just found out today, actually, that it is owned by the Discovery Network, the ones that do like ID Network, Discovery, and all that. But they don't have a lot of channels, but they have a lot of good ones. Obviously, all the Discovery stuff.
Yeah.
And on there's a channel called Viceland.
Viceland. Yep.
And that's where I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. This show is made, like, if you look at the scrolling up, Dark Side, I'm reading off Wikipedia, okay? Dark Side of the Ring is a Canadian documentary television series produced by Vice Studios. The series focuses on controversial subjects and events within the realm of professional wrestling. That's your summary. But it is a Canadian show. Vice is actually a Canadian. Vice Canada got to be quite big. You'll see it on YouTube and such a lot, Vice. They have their own television stations, and now it's really expanded huge in the States. And there you go. It's through the Discovery Network, isn't it? That's where you're seeing it.
Yeah, on Vice, which I assume is just part of Vice Studios.
Yeah, we get it on, and we get it on a streaming service called Crave, which is owned by Bell Media. So anybody listening who's in Canada, you can get it. All the episodes are available on Crave, and right now they're coming up with the new ones. I think it's every Thursday night at like 10 o'clock Eastern. The newest ones appear on Crave. So there's only been 3 so far in season 3, and there's going to be, what, 10, 12?
This season?
Yeah, looks like more than that. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 shows this season.
Wow, they went from 6 season 1,
yeah,
10 season 2 to 14. This is awesome.
14.
This must be very popular.
Well, it deserves it, I would say, because like you hit the nail on the head. Just what I thought about it. You could take anybody who doesn't care about wrestling, sit them down in front of one of these shows, and they're going to sit and watch it and like it. And the way I sort of put it in the description for this is the type of show that for a non-wrestling fan, it's going to be mesmerizing. And for a friggin' wrestling fan, it's just like crack, because it is such interesting stories to be told. And they do it so well.
It is very well done. And like you were saying, there's so many episodes that, I know I didn't know anything about, or you said there was some you didn't know about. And I even find those interesting. So it's not like it has to be, Bruiser Brody or the Von Erichs, people I'm familiar with. Because this season was, they started with a 2-parter, Brian Pillman. And you know all about him, but I never even heard of the guy. But it was an interesting show.
It was a great show. Yeah. I had watched them, and last night, it was a holiday here in Canada yesterday. And right after supper, Mama C and I sat down, and she hadn't seen them yet. And she really enjoys it too. She watched it when season 2 come on. 64-bit was home, and we watched it every Thursday night for all 10 weeks, like clockwork. And the whole family did. And now this year we haven't done it. So Mama C and I sat down and watched for 3 hours and watched those first 3 episodes of season 3. Me for the second time each. And that Brian Pillman episode was special. Man, they don't mind interviewing people who aren't necessarily likable people. And they don't hang them, they let them hang themselves. Do you know what I'm saying there, Jeff?
Yeah, I know some people, if they don't like somebody, don't want them to have a voice. I'm the opposite. I'm like, if I think you're an idiot or a bad person, I say, let them talk, because then everyone will see how they are. Because
eventually they're gonna like that. Yeah. And I would say that's where sort of Melanie Pillman ended up with that Brian Pillman episode, wouldn't you?
Yeah, she was a mess.
She was a mess.
Yeah. I think she knows she's a mess.
Yeah, she did. She did have some self-awareness there, didn't she? Here's a little scoop from CM on Vice. The States Vice used to be a 30-minute show on HBO. And like I say, I think it's Canadian based is where it started. And then the YouTube channel blew up.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's completely off topic, but speaking of I guess it's a little bit on topic. There's a video. You know who Len is? The group they did "Steal My Sunshine."
Another Canadian band. Yep.
Yep, from Toronto, the Costanzas, and the video they did for that is one of my all-time favorite music videos. I watched that thing so many times. It's crazy.
Stealing on Sunshine.
Steal My Sunshine, because
okay.
I like the song, but one of the very first DVDs I ever bought was a movie called Go, and it's a great movie. But in that movie, but on the DVDs and the extras, they had like music videos of the songs that were in the show, and one of them was "Steal My Sunshine" by Len. And there's something fascinating about that video. I just kept watching it, and I've seen it so many times. But they're Canadian. Vice is Canadian, and from Canada. And at the very beginning, they're riding these scooters, and there's a sticker on the scooters that says Vice, and it's the same logo as Vice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I didn't know what that was at the time, and I'm not sure why that was even in the video, but it's kind of weird that it was, especially with them being Canadian.
I'm going to pull up the Vice logo here just to show it. Because they don't, like, this is about wrestling, but they do news, and it's some of the stuff they do is kind of controversial. Yeah. I watched a Vice show once on what's the name of the country? Oh, shoot. Liberia. They were the ones that almost have an American flag on the coast of Africa, which were...
Yeah, it's so interesting. My son has talked about them before, where their flag is almost identical to ours.
Right.
And there is a history between the two countries, which I guess is what led to that.
Well, it isn't very big, but I'm going to share it anyway. That's their logo, basically, so if you see it.
That's the sticker that's on the scooters in that, that music video.
Yeah. I was sort of hoping 64-bit was going to pop in, because he could talk about this even more than I can. But one thing about it is this show is the baby. I think a group made it, but the director of this show is the fella named Jason Eisener. And he is from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, here in Canada, right here in Atlantic Canada, which is actually where my son, like, he lives in. It's the Halifax Regional Municipality. It's a Halifax area. Part of that, and he actually studied the same program, went through the same program that my son has completed 2 years ago. So Connor's a big fan of his, and this guy has really produced a lot of great work over the years, getting better and better. Right, like I say, like, because we're a relatively small area, so it's always good for us to see the Canadian. CM Retro. This is a good summary right here. Vice is a lot of counterculture and subculture pieces, but they also do world news and current event stuff. Precisely. Yeah, that's the best way to wrap it up right there, Chris. Couldn't have said it any better. No way.
Oh, and Lance, yes, Go, the movie, was the one with Jay Moore.
Ah, okay, right on.
It's a really good movie.
But anyway, this guy, Jason Eisener, he's produced a lot of it. He started off as a student, and he made Robert Rodriguez had that Grindhouse trailer contest, and he made this trailer. So a 2-minute clip for a film, which was just a fictional film made up called Hobo with a Shotgun. And he sent it in, and I think I've told you this story, right, Jeff?
Yep.
And he won the contest. So we got all kinds of promotion from out of that or whatever. And so a few years later, they decided to make Hobo with a Shotgun. So the movie actually exists now. It was filmed in Halifax. Starred a couple of stars for the Trailer Park Boys are in it, and Halifax personalities, and it got somewhat of a mainstream release. It's not a mainstream movie because of the grindhouse, gory, filthy movie.
Well, the main character was a well-known actor. Was it Rutger Hauer, right?
Rutger Hauer.
You know what's so weird? It's such an obscure movie, but we actually watched that like 10 years ago.
Did you?
And I don't know where it was. I don't know if it was on like a movie channel like HBO or something. I don't know how we saw it, but I saw the title and I was like, okay, I got to watch this movie. Anything called Hobo with a Shotgun, I'm giving a shot. I'm giving it a chance. And it was kind of interesting.
Now, have you ever seen, I got a friend who did a review of this. I got a friend on the Rebel Gaming Club channel named Mosley. And he likes to review.
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him? He likes to drink beer and he likes to review gory movies. So I thought for the 2 minutes that it is, a fellow named Papa Mosley did a little satire flick of one of Mosley's review, and he reviewed Hobo with a Shotgun. So just thought I might it's only 2 minutes long, so I thought I might play it here if you don't mind.
Perfect.
Hopefully, let me know how the sound goes. Hey, Rebel Gamers, Papa Mosley here, and just a second, I need a drink.
Yeah, I can hear it. It's a little low, but I can hear it.
Got a tag film for you here today, one by Jason Eisener, who you might know. He just come onto the scene not too long ago. He's doing the Dark Side of the Ring right now, a great wrestling show about all the different murders and bad things that go on in wrestling. Anyway, today's movie, it's motherfucking Hobo with a Shotgun, man. What a great friggin' flick. This actually started out as a trailer that he made and entered into a contest for Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino's Grindhouse films, and they made the trailer.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city.
Hobo with a Shotgun. And the trailer won the contest. And, you know, after that, there was so much love for that trailer that they decided they had to make this movie. So they brought the late, great Rucker Hauer to star in this film of a hobo who goes into this place and to run amok with absolutely insane criminals. And if you're looking for lots of blood and gore, man. And other great stuff like that. Have a few beer while you're watching this. Anyway, Hobo with a Shotgun. Lots of blood and guts. It's got Leahy's other daughter in it. That's John Dunsworth's daughter. And if you like the Trailer Park Boys, you even get to see Ricky get his head cut off in a manhole. It's freaking awesome. The view it right in there. Right on. So, anyway, highly recommended. Jason Eisener, Hobo with a Shotgun, starring the late, great Rucker Hauer. Make sure you check it out as soon as you can. Anyway, I'm Papa Mosley. We'll see you next time, Rebel Gamers.
And that was that.
I like how the beer kept multiplying.
Well, if you saw Mosley very many times, you go, that's him.
I couldn't help notice that Papa Mosley seemed to be a collector too. He had quite a nice collection behind him.
Hold on. What did I just hear a cackle from the background? That's the first cackle from the background of the stream. I love it. Oh yeah, if you haven't seen that, Chris, man, find it, check it out. It's good. This is made. It was made around 2011, I think. It was made strictly because they won the contest by making that Hobo the Shotgun trailer with Robert Rodriguez, and yeah, it's worth watching. I'll say that.
So did what's his name? The guy doing Dark Side of the Ring who did the trailer?
That's Jason Eisener's.
Jason
movie.
Eisener.
Jason Eisener's movie, Hobo the Shotgun.
Oh, I was going to ask. So he did the movie?
He did the movie. That was years ago. Okay. Now this is what he's doing. He's the one who was the director and one of the creators of Dark Side of the Ring. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. He's talented, right? Very, very talented.
Do you know, does he have anything to do with the new series, Dark Side of Football or the NFL? I can't remember what it's called.
I'm not aware of it.
I'm just curious if Vice is going to start this whole series now of Dark Side of whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's brand new. It just started like a week or so ago.
Yeah. You
know what Dark Side of the Ring has not talked about? And it's something that who was it? You put it up on screen. The old midget wrestling. There's got to be some good stories there of the little guys running around because that was big in the 70s.
Oh yeah, it was huge. Still, well, frankly, it still is. Like you'll still see it around small areas. Yeah, I don't. No, there has to be something. You never know where they'll go. They may find something there.
I mean, wouldn't you like to hear from Little Beaver about how it felt to get dumped on by King Kong?
As Bob Uecker put it, there's chunks of beaver everywhere.
I'm surprised they didn't have to get like a big some kind of contrivance there to kind of scrape him off the mat because he was flattened on that thing.
Oh, I'm having another beer, but don't tell Mama C I got a Trailways Days Done. Shh, don't tell Mama C. It's her beer.
See, if this was Papa Mosley, he'd be drinking a Colt 45.
That's right. And we'll give away my tricks. Because you know what? I bought the first one and I drank it the first time I made a video. And I thought to myself, there ain't a goddamn way I'm going to drink another one of those things, making one of those videos. They suck. So we washed out the can and we keep it tucked away in case they ever need it again.
Oh, that's funny. What did you think? So the last episode that's run so far here in season 3 was Collision in Korea, where a bunch of wrestlers went to North Korea.
Yeah.
Not South Korea to wrestle.
Yeah.
Did you know about this?
I had heard of it. I certainly didn't know the details that were given in that show. Dark side of the ice cream trucks. Dark side of hopscotch. Yes, okay.
When Brian Bischoff was talking about how he went for a jog, I guess early in the morning or late at night. I can't remember which it was. It was dark out.
Yeah.
And he said everyone was just out there staring at him. He may have been lucky to get back alive.
You know, well, the people are so scared they aren't going to do anything. The military may, but the individual people aren't, because they don't do anything without being told to do it.
It almost doesn't seem possible, but they mentioned it in this, and I've heard it too, where in North Korea, Americans are painted as like literal monsters.
Yeah, because that's what they're
guys, like monsters, and the people, when they were seeing him for the first time, the locals there in North Korea, they were kind of scared and didn't know what to think, because they've always been told that these people were monsters, and here they are right in front of them.
And this is before we get on to this, the Vice has a show, which I've watched online, about North Korea, and somebody goes to North Korea. I'm very intrigued by everything North Korea anyway, because I find it just so bizarre, right? That cult, something so isolated can exist in our world, but it does. And Vice actually has an amazing, it's about 1 hour show on North Korea. It's available on YouTube. It's available online. Do a search. Just Vice North Korea. Pulled up Inside North Korea, part 1 of 3. Vice video documentaries. You can find it online. And if you're interested at all in some of the backwards things, man, it's
fascinating enough when you find like a tribe in an isolated area that doesn't know anything what's going on, but that's not the case here. I mean, these people up until the 50s were aware of everything, and now it's been so long. And everything they're told, they're getting spoon-fed from their own government. So it's also interesting that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
In this world.
It was colonial rule by Japan for forever, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then when they finally got World War II, freed them, but the Chinese sort of had control at the top, and they put certain group into power. Kim Il-sung or whatever got into power. And then the Americans were at the bottom, and they tried to keep the South free. And of course, they had their powers within Seoul. And then they had the Korean War, and they've never settled it. And the people that were in power, the Sung family is still in power. And they've been able to brainwash and isolate everybody. It's amazing, the whole story. And that show was like, those poor wrestlers didn't know what they were getting into going over there.
I was a little surprised that they seemed to be in danger like they were. I thought coming in as celebrities that they would at least be taken care of. Like, they wouldn't have to worry. As long as they didn't do anything stupid, they wouldn't have to worry about anything. But apparently there was that one guy, a wrestler, whose name I don't remember, who was talking on the phone to his wife,
Scott,
saying how terrible it was there.
Yeah, call it. Yeah, his wife was mad at him for not calling. He said, "Well, you don't know what kind of shithole I'm in."
Yeah, and they were listening, and they came into his room and were yelling at him. They took him out of his room, and I'm sure he was probably scared shitless. He was about to get killed.
Oops. I drank her last beer.
Oh yeah, the documentary with Dennis Rodman going to North Korea.
Yeah,
I've always
wow.
thought it was interesting that North Korean and South Korean, they're the same people.
Yeah.
Yet at this point, they've been separated for like 70 years or 65 years.
Yeah.
I wonder, besides the brainwashing, I wonder how different they are. Like language wise, do they still sound exactly the same? Different accent, different slang.
All differently somewhat.
Yeah,
right.
It's been so long. I mean, it's been a couple generations.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, and I can't believe they get over there and how those two wrestlers, like Too Cold Scorpio and Hawk, Michael Hegstrand or whatever his name was, would be fighting like that over there in that country. But mind you, Hawk can't speak for himself. He can't answer the questions, right?
Yeah.
So very one-sided there. You got to take that with a grain of salt.
Well, and one of the other guys did say that it did not happen the way. What's his name? Scorpion?
Too Cold Scorpio. He was also known as Flash Funk briefly in the WWF.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy who said that the way he said it was happening, at least part of the story, he said it didn't really happen that way.
Exactly.
He was trying to. He said basically he was saying that he kind of stared down Hawk and the guy was saying no, it didn't happen. He goes, Hawk would have tore him up. And where was Animal on this trip? Were they not a tag team anymore?
Well, they did. They went here and there, different places at one time. Remember, that wasn't long before Hawk died. So,
I never did understand the show. Why did they do this?
Why did they go over there?
Yeah, I mean, for Bischoff, I guess there was money involved, but
Antonio Inoki wanted to have the show, and he recruited Bischoff to put it together, the American aspect of it. And of course, Bischoff, being power hungry as he was at that point in time, thought it was a great idea. Goes to Hulk Hogan. Hey, want to go to North Korea fight? Can't make that one, brother.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Yeah, can't make that one, brother. Yeah, that's it. And
Hulk knew what he was talking about.
what he's doing.
Although you got to say, let's say you were in that position. I mean, there's part of me that's tempted to go because there's nothing like this on this planet. This country is all by itself in this way.
Yeah.
So it'd be fascinating to see. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't want to make a mistake and end up not coming back home. So
because that's all it takes. We've had people like Canadian citizens who have made mistakes and then just said, you're a spy. And then you're dead. Case closed.
I saw a YouTube video of a guy who works in China, but part of his work was to go into North Korea.
Yeah.
There's a train that goes from North Korea to China, and he would take that every day in there. And he was talking about how strange it is. And I'm thinking, how strange is your job? You're working in North Korea half your time.
That's right.
What an odd thing.
Yeah.
Because you hear stories about how on like some main streets, they'll have like grocery stores and the front window is just full of food.
Yep.
When in reality, there is no such thing like that there.
Well, it's all for those are the propaganda stores. That's what they show in their pictures and stuff.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. I don't want to sort of miss on. I can't imagine what would be going through everybody's mind at that time, Chris. Like that would just totally and completely freak you out. Every time they fire a missile right now, I'm sure Japan and South Korea are freaking out. Like we're 3,000 miles, 3,000. Well, we're 8,000 miles away, so we're sitting there going, it's concerning. But to be right there next to that friggin' powder keg,
it'd be like Canada shooting one over our head, or the U.S. shooting one over your head. It would be it'd be scary.
Well, truth be known, you guys probably shoot them up over the north all the time because we do everything like that together.
That's true.
Through NORAD, right? But yes, I do know what you mean. Like if we were at odds and all of a sudden that happened, it's like, oh my God, like I like the description they had of flying in this rickety old plane and say, we're flying over South Korea. Then all of a sudden I see a big row of cannons aimed to the north. And there's a big long friggin' line and a bunch of cannons and artillery aimed to the south. It's like, where am I?
I thought it was funny that they got Ric Flair to go. Of all guys, I mean, can you imagine what those people are thinking? He comes out in that big robe and and like they were said in the show, nobody was making a sound because they didn't know who these people were. They're not familiar with professional wrestling because they probably haven't seen it since since the 50s, I guess. It just had to be a weird thing. It was like, what was there, over 100,000 people there?
There was 150,000 the first night, 170,000 the second night. Still the two largest wrestling live events in history. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right with the Rocky IV stuff going on. And like they explained it quite well about how when the Americans were out there, even the Japanese, it didn't mean anything. Like they didn't even know what wrestling was. They were there to do their show beforehand with all the like they're all taught that right from day one. Like it's a job. They have to go to be in this certain seat and flash this card in unison at a certain time to make the great pictures. But and then by the end of it with Antonio Inoki out there, and of course they talked about Ricky Dojin, which I do not know much about at all. But when Antonio Inoki, I read a little bit about afterwards, he started off wrestling. He became he had this wrestler named Ricky Dojin as his mentor. But truth be known, Ricky Dojin was North Korean but hid it, and the Japanese mafia found out and killed him. So when Antonio Inoki went to North Korea, of course, they were aware of that he was affiliated with Ricky Dojin. And of course, the North Korean military propaganda machine laid it out like Ricky Dojin was a great martyr for the North Koreans because he had sort of invaded Japan until they found out and he died for the cause. So they treated Antonio Inoki as a compatriot of this Ricky Dojin, who was a national quote-unquote hero, even though truth be known, Ricky Dojin was just wanted to wrestle and be the hell in Japan. And anyway, it's all propaganda. That's why the people all of a sudden started to reacted to Antonio Inoki. But he was the only one they reacted to the whole two shows.
Yeah, remember they said they took their passports and electronics, all that stuff away from them as soon as they got there, and they didn't get it back till the very end as they were leaving. Yeah,
and watch some of those Vice shows on North Korea. You'll see the same thing. They control all that stuff when you go in the country. You can't have a camera. You can't have a cell phone.
That'd be that would not be good.
Some of the biggest contraband over there are like movies and SD cards and stuff like that with movies on them, American movies and foreign films. And yeah. So we sort of skipped over Nick Gage, though. What did you think about the Nick Gage show?
It's just weird because it's not really even wrestling as we know it. It's all real. I mean, these guys are getting hurt.
Oh yeah,
that's the whole point of it, is to get hurt.
Yep.
I mean, the wrestlers we're talking about, they get hurt when something goes wrong. But they're not supposed to get hurt. But this was just bizarre. They'd have glass on the mat. They were slamming. Yep. They would just be. And Nick Gage in one of them, I forgot who he was wrestling. Somebody from Germany, I think. But he slammed them into those long ceiling lights,
fluorescent light tubes.
Yeah, he slammed into it, and one of them cut him right in the throat. And he was bleeding so badly they had to get him the heck out of there before he died.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen the people reaction to those? People, they were loving it. It's
backyard wrestling type thing. I mean,
I guess it's basically modern day, Coliseum stuff. You might smuggle it in, but I don't think you're taking it back out with you.
Depicts real American life. Like a documentary. There you go.
An American documentary. Maybe they will like it.
Maybe they will.
But yeah, it was an interesting story. I have a hard time even watching some of that wrestling though. I wouldn't sit here on YouTube and pop in and start a video of wrestling when they're really hurting each other.
Yeah,
because it's kind of gross. I mean, they're just covered in blood. I'm surprised. I'm guessing nobody's died. I mean, you'd think it'd all be shut down if it had happened.
Have you ever watched first of all, the movie The Wrestler?
Oh yeah, with
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke, yeah.
And he does that hardcore death match in the middle with the Necro Butcher. Well, that's a real wrestler, right? The Necro Butcher, the guy where they have the staple gun out. That one gets me every friggin' time. The staple gun and the tacks and stuff. I can't imagine it. Here they are after the match, like with pliers, pulling the staples out of his head. And this Necro Butcher, this is what he does, right? Like, there's some stuff online, like there's this one called, and maybe there'll be a show about it sometime, who knows, but called Combat Zone Wrestling. And it's out of the East Coast, I think. And basically this one that they showed that Nick Gage wrestles in would like be, I don't even know if Combat Zone Wrestling is still going on. Maybe it's extinct and this one that he wrestles in is the newer version. But I can remember back in the day seeing this thing called Combat Zone, and that's what it was. It's these death matches, like light tubes and stuff like that. It's friggin' incredible.
I just don't get it. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting movie.
Oh wow, I got it right here. I got the Blu-ray right here. CM. I'll stop it over after the show.
You know, another crazy one was The Life and Crimes of New Jack.
Oh yeah,
I had heard his name. I'd never seen him wrestle, and God, the thing he did to that 17-year-old kid, where he cut him in the head so badly that it messed him up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Man. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I just like watching the normal wrestling where it's, I guess kind of like watching a cartoon in a way where they're not really getting hurt. Although, obviously sometimes they do get hurt, but for the most part, that's not the point of the wrestling. The point of, WWF isn't to hurt anybody. It's just for people to have some entertainment, go back and forth.
But it's different now than it was 20 years ago. Like 20 years ago, it was in that, what do they call it? The Attitude Era. And, I agree with that 100%. He came across that way, Chris, in the show too. I don't know. Have you, just type in a yes or no, have you watched Dark Side of the Ring? I think you said you had. Anyway, he came across that way to be in that show, like no friggin' positive characteristics whatsoever. Nick Gage, as bad as he was, kind of seemed to have a little bit of humanity in him, a little tiny bit somewhere.
Well, he had that story. He had the wrestling match with
Arquette.
Arquette, and I wouldn't say he was remorseful about slicing his head open with what was he using? A pizza cutter.
Yeah, which is his stick, right?
But I mean, I think he said something like maybe I went too far or something, but then he said, in the end he did agree to the match. Yeah, that's David Schultz, DJC. Remember David Schultz slapped John Stossel from 2020, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a show on 2020, and then this is the first time I got to see the actual whole story. And then he ended up getting thrown out of WWF, didn't he, because of that? Yeah.
Basically ruined his career. He was still around, but he never really did anything else after that. Chuck put that up there, and I thought, oh God, which one's that? That's right. That's indeed. That was one of the ones I was looking at tonight going, that's a show that I could watch again because I know very, very little, about him. I got to watch that one over again. Yeah, Mama John Moxley was the best part of that episode. He's hilarious. He was. John Moxley was friggin' really good. it's funny to see some of these episodes and see how charismatic some of these wrestlers are, how well spoken they are, when you don't really get to see that in their wrestling. Scott Norton, I found, was excellent in the Collision in Korea episode. Too Cold Scorpio, not so much. He came across a little funny. He was well spoken, but I mean, he just came across as vindictive. But Scott Norton's was a great interview.
Scorpio still seemed upset about Hawk.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago.
It's 20 years ago. Andy's dead. I think
it all started because of of bad feelings between Too Cold Scorpio and Ric Flair. So the common denominator there was Too Cold Scorpio. Caper Dave in the house. Hey, bud.
Caper Dave.
Good to see ya. Crave. Hope you have Crave and been watching Dark Side of the Ring because it's awesome. That Caper Dave is from Nova Scotia, and Jason Eisener, the director of Dark Side of the Ring, is a fellow Nova Scotian like Caper Dave.
Hey, what did you think of Jimmy Snuka after the Jimmy Snuka episode where his girlfriend died? And was he charged with murder? I can't remember.
He was eventually, but he died before he ever got to trial. Well, actually, no, he was found incapable of standing trial.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But he died very shortly thereafter. So it was probably the right finding at the end of the day. At the time, you're sitting there going, well, that's wrong. I mean, he's getting out of it. No, he was almost dead. But he lived his whole life with it. Roid rage or something. What did I think about him? There was something wrong with Jimmy Snuka. I knew that since the 80s because I always didn't really qualify it as well. It makes much more sense now. But Jimmy Snuka was a huge, huge star. People love Jimmy Snuka, but they never could make him a champion. They never could depend on him. They never could put him in a role where he was really important to show up. He always sort of was on the fringe, and that was because they couldn't control the man. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it's interesting when they choose a champion, it has to be somebody they can rely on. And Snuka, I think at the time, he had a pretty bad drug problem at the time.
Agreed. Yeah, and
they just couldn't drug, which is a shame because he was a heck of a wrestler, man. I always hate to hear when you like a wrestler you like and you find out that, he killed this woman or may have killed her. I don't know what happened, but and it doesn't sit too well. It's like, ugh.
I was aware of it, but again, it's one of those stories that I just didn't know nearly as much about prior to watching it. And it's another one as well. There's so much information there that that I got to watch it again to really let more of it sink in. Nancy Agostino. I had seen her. What is it?
Argentino.
And man, no, it was like he lost it. I mean, all facts point towards the fact that he killed her.
Yeah.
Whether he wanted to, meant to, or what, he did it.
Now, I think one of the most fascinating episodes was the Fabulous Moolah.
Okay, yeah.
Episode 6 from season 1. Because
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, because we talked about this. At the end of the day, I don't know what to believe because half the people being interviewed thought she was a horrible human being.
Yep.
And the other half loved her.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this possible?
There was nobody in the middle.
There was nobody in the middle. So it's like, I don't know who to believe other than I think we talked about this, that she must have been extremely nice to people she really liked, and she was a complete jackass to people she didn't like.
And
that's the conclusion I can come up with.
You were garbage under her shoes.
Yeah. And she ran women's wrestling for decades.
Oh yeah, she dominated it, and there's a lot of spite over that too, from hard feelings over that. Whenever somebody starts off their comment with that, I have to leave it up there for quite a while.
Pete's right. Did you repeat that?
But man, no, it's friggin' Snuka. He should have been huge, and he just was. They couldn't make him as big as he was. That would have been interesting.
I love Snuka, but even back then when I was watching it in the 80s, you kind of tell he was never going to be a champion. And yeah, and I've told you many times, my favorite wrestling match maybe of all time was Snuka versus Morocco in the steel cage.
Yes. Oh, you've told me that. Yeah.
Because that was back when the steel cage didn't have a top. It was open. It was just like a 20-foot cage.
Well, they still are, but that was they went to the blue bar cage for a while after that. It was still the screen then.
Yeah, because Snuka got up on the top rope and then he jumped up to the top of the cage and did his big super fly on top of Morocco.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how everyone didn't get hurt on that one. How can you? I don't care how you land; it's going to hurt.
Oh, friggin' right!
That's just too high up.
And now, do you remember? Because we've had this conversation. Who was in the crowd watching that fight?
Mick Foley.
Mick Foley. You know, on that note, okay. First of all, I gotta have an explanation on this comment. Oh, not that one. I know what that one is.
I know what you're talking about. That
one. I don't know if you want to tell that story, Chris. But we do need the blue cage back sometime. I really did like the blue cage as well. Yeah. But like I say, on this one, Mick, yeah. For the entire show, for Dark Side of the Ring, it can't be understated what a great job Chris Jericho does narrating it, don't you think?
Yeah, I didn't even notice it was him until several episodes in. I saw his name as a narrator. I was like, wow, it sounds like a professional narrator.
Oh, he does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. This is not a small. They're growing. Let me tell you. Not that Chris Jericho is going to cost them a fortune to do this, and it really makes sense. But oh yeah, and okay, a little trivia question without looking it up: who else has narrated shows? Chris Jericho only narrated seasons 2 and seasons 3. Okay, so he's doing the narration from now on. Is my assumption.
Who did season 1?
What's that?
Are you talking about who was a wrestler did it for season 1 as well?
Dutch Mantel narrated season 1.
All right,
and,
I gotta go back and watch an episode.
Yeah. There isn't as much narration, but there's one exception, and that is the Bruiser Brody one. And who narrates that episode?
Not Brody.
Not Brody. We just talked about him, Mick Foley.
Oh, interesting.
I have to go back and I'm going to go back and rewatch those and watch for that because I'm reading this off Wikipedia. I have no particular reason to believe it's wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm quite sure it's right. I know Chris Jericho's done it the last couple of years, but he does a fantastic job, in my opinion. Dutch Mantel, I think I know who it is. It's I can't remember what his name is. He was a manager in WWF quite a bit. Like he was can't remember what his name was, but he was a manager for Jack Swagger and for JBL for a while, I think, at one point. If I'm not mistaken. If anybody knows that right off, let me know. Chris, it wasn't Stone Cold, but man, wasn't Stone Cold awesome in that Brian Pillman episode?
It was really good. He was in it a lot too. It wasn't just a little bit.
He was. But then again, when you think about it, he and Pillman were extremely important to each other.
Yeah, because Steve Austin said that he wanted no part of being a tag team. He didn't want to do tag team at all. They forced him to. Yeah, and he said he grew to like it because I guess he got along really well with Brian Pillman.
Yeah, yeah, and they seemed to be respectful of each other. They could somehow share the spotlight, yet elevate each other at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So that a person. You can only elevate yourself so much. Like a Ric Flair is a master, okay? Excuse me. A Hulk Hogan is a master at self-promotion. So Stone Cold, and once he found his niche, let's say, but he had to find that niche to start with. But they really did some amazing things together. Just by watching some of the things that I do vaguely remember them wrestling some. I'm sure that I saw them, but I don't know. I wish I could go back and see more of that, but there's just not enough time to watch it all.
You know, DJC saw Mick Foley being a maniac in the ring, and I missed a lot of Mick Foley, but I did go back and watch some of his stuff because I did catch some of him at the time he was wrestling, and I was like, who is this guy? This guy's nuts. I mean, he just seemed like he was willing to do anything, put his body out there or hurt himself. It didn't seem to matter. And I was like, this guy is just absolutely crazy. So you can see why he was a big star. I mean, he would do anything. But when you hear him talk, it's like, I don't think he's crazy. I guess he just liked it.
There has been a recent show started on A&E on Sunday nights. What the hell is it called? WWE's Missing Treasures or something along that line?
Oh, Lance just mentioned it, Most Wanted Treasures. And
there you go, yeah.
And I watched the first episode where they were looking for Andy Kaufman's neck collar and...
Was that the first episode?
Well, let me say this. It was the first one I saw.
The only episode I've watched was Mick Foley's, where he was looking for his stuff. I've recorded them on my PVR, but I haven't gone back to watch them. Yeah, Andy Kaufman's neck brace. That'd be pretty cool.
It didn't seem like anyone knew where it was. I don't think they found it in that episode.
Oh wow. The Mick Foley one was really good. I enjoyed that. Of course, Mick himself, with the curator from the museum, goes looking for the stuff. It was excellent.
How many different names did Mick Foley go by?
Well, he's still the only one to have 3 different personalities in the same Royal Rumble. Who can tell me what year that was right off the bat? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, there. Look. Great minds think alike right here. Although it's... he came out 3 times. He came out as Cactus Jack.
Wait a minute. So as he got tossed out, he'd run back, and then he'd come back in. As,
all of a sudden, 2 or 3 wrestlers later, he come back in as like Mankind. Then he get tossed out, and 3 or 4 wrestlers later, he come back in as Dude Love.
Oh my God, that is so funny. You know what that reminds me of, Pete? I just heard this. I'm a big Devo fan, and there were someone on the radio on like Sirius was talking about them, and they used to early on they created another band. It was a Christian rock band. I can't remember the name of it. It had the words "love" and "dove" in it. That's all I remember.
Okay,
but they would open for themselves. They would come out as a Christian band, play, then they'd go off stage, and then they'd come back as Devo.
Devo would do this?
Yes, they opened for themselves several times. I thought that was hilarious.
And nobody clued in at the time.
I don't know if they did or not. I mean, as big of a fan as I am, I just heard about this for the first time like a month ago.
That's amazing.
I don't know if the people there watching knew. Because I don't know what they looked like, if they had like a disguise or something. I just think that's such a smart idea. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Mike, good to see you, man.
Mike?
I'm proud to say that I am now the newest member of the Gamers United Guild.
That's right.
So we'll be playing the video starting next week in 2 weeks before wrestling video games and retro adventures, and next week before whatever I end up doing next week. Don't know what that's going to be yet. Time for another stream of some sort, I think, but we'll be playing that in there. Good to see you. Good to see you, Mike. Yes, here's Lance. Mick Foley is a very, very community-oriented person. Just a great guy.
Such an interesting wrestler. I mean, I think he's a one of a kind. I can't think of anyone else that's like Mick Foley.
Yeah, no. Have you read his book, Have a Nice Day? He's got more than one now, but his first one was called Have a Nice Day.
No.
And it was thick.
Jeez.
And it was one of the things he sort of starts out about was how everybody wanted him to get a ghostwriter and blah, 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 blah. He said, hell that, I'm writing it myself. And he did. And it's excellent. One of the better, it's like I've read a lot of wrestling books. I've like Ric Flair's and Bret Hart's, and with the different writers and such, and they're good. Don't get me wrong, but you can tell when it's told and not written by. And Mick Foley's is quite obviously written by, and it makes it seem better. There, Caper Davis, yeah, it is. It's incredible. And I bought his second one, and I hate to say that I have not read it. I don't even know where it is right off. I'm sure I have a bookshelf with tons of wrestling books out in the other room. But yeah, if you guys ever want to read a good book, Have a Nice Day, Mick Foley, beautiful book, and it will keep you in it. But it's thick. It's a big book.
Lance has made mention of characters with lots of gimmicks.
Right there, yeah.
Brutus Beefcake. It cracks me up when wrestlers like take on like a second nickname, like Brutus Beefcake, clearly made up name, and then he's Brutus the Barber Beefcake, or Cowboy Bob Orton went as Ace Cowboy Bob Orton. It's like,
that's
how
right.
many nicknames do you need?
Never enough.
At the very beginning of the show, you mentioned Hulk Hogan being a champion, WWE champion, like 2002 or 2003. And that's so funny because I just watched the match where he was the champion in 2002, and he was wrestling the Undertaker. And I turned it on. This is when he had the weird black beard and the blonde mustache. I'm like, I don't know who told him that was a good look, but
NWO look, man.
I turn it on. I'm like, he was a champion in 2002. I thought he was kind of long gone from championship stuff at that point. I had no idea he was still wrestling.
They gave him one. Excuse me. Oh. When he came back as the NWO with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, it was a big deal. Actually, it was a very big deal because 5 years earlier, the NWO was like the hottest thing going. And that NWO and WCW, they took it to extremes. And there was freaking everybody under their sun was the NWO. The NWO became so huge, they had to break it up into two different NWOs and have them fight against each other. WCW could mismanage any good gimmick. Anything, they could mismanage it. So when they finally brought those three original NWO members in, it was a huge deal. And they brought them up over the spring or the winter, and as he's still the big heels, but they put Hogan in against The Rock in Toronto. And if you're ever going to screw up the face versus heel, with the face versus heel diatribe, whatever I try to think of, but if you want to screw it up, then do it in Canada. And people booed The Rock so damn hard and cheered for Hogan at the Sky Dome. It was friggin' amazing. It was amazing. But they worked it. They worked it well. And The Rock turned. And The Rock sort of played it up too. Like they're smart men. They knew what they were doing. They got that crowd going. And then the next night they went to Montreal, and that was when they decided, okay, Hogan's too huge. We got to turn him. They turned him face. And anyway, later on, they gave him a token championship again. Didn't last a real long time, but they did give him that one more championship, and that was about, like you said, 2002.
I had no idea. When I saw that, I was like, "What the heck?" You know how you know The Rock is? You know how you know The Rock is smart? He started acting.
Yeah,
that seems like a much better lifestyle.
Oh yes, biggest paid actor in Hollywood on that.
And I was talking about the Broken Skull sessions. I was watching the one with Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, but she's in The Mandalorian.
She is in The Mandalorian as one of the other Mandalorian, one of the three. Oh shoot, I can't tell you their names now, but yeah, she's there. She's not the main one. There's a group of three that are also Mandalorians. The Mandalorians that will remove their helmets.
And she said that Jon Favreau came to her about being in the show. And then she also she didn't come right out and say it, but it's pretty obvious that she's got more things going on with acting. So I have a feeling she's going to end up being a Rock type where she starts doing more acting and wrestling.
Quiz Jeff, who's her uncle?
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, and that's how she sort of get in there. She was like a kid. He was bringing her to the events when he'd do things at WrestleMania and at special pay-per-views. He'd come in and make appearances. She was a wrestling fan. He always brought her with him, and that's how she got the in and started wrestling.
She mentioned that. She said she begged him to take her to wrestle. Was it WrestleMania or I can't remember what show it was. I'm like, geez, how convenient is that? That's really nice.
That Caper Dave, the pop on Raw that next night was I don't think I've ever seen any pop for anybody ever in the history of Raw for one person that lasted longer than that one right there. It was absolutely amazing in Montreal the next night after that WrestleMania. You were saying that quickly. I just wanted to throw this in there real quick. We were talking about The Rock for a second. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Dark Side of the Ring, Jason Eisener, good old Nova Scotia Maritimer. And God rest his soul, The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson, born and grew up in Nova Scotia. Good old Maritimer as well. So even The Rock has roots here in Atlantic Canada.
I went on a kick where I was watching all The Rock's movies for a few weeks. And they're not masterpieces, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah, they're some better than others. Oh, he's got a ton of movies. Scorpion King. I still remember the very first one was the Scorpion King.
That's right. I like the one where he was trying to save his family from a building. Can't remember what the name was, Skyscraper or something.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yep.
I actually really like that one.
I would like to point out right now, I'm very proud of Mama C for even bringing this up because a lot of people wouldn't even be aware of that fact.
I don't even know what she's talking about. What's this mean, Pete?
After in 1996, was it, or 94, when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash jumped ship to 94 probably. Anyway, jumped ship to WCW. They had this brainstorm that Jim Ross was bringing them back about 6 months or a year later, bringing them back to the WWF, and he brought out Razor Ramon and Diesel, and it was two completely different people. But it was actually Rick Bronya was Razor Ramon, and he was there for 6 months as these characters, and a fella named Glenn Jacobs was ended up calling him the fake Diesel and the fake Razor Ramon. But a fellow named Glenn Jacobs was the fake Diesel. Do you know who Glenn Jacobs is?
Kane.
Formerly Isaac Yankem DDS. Then he was the fake Diesel, and then finally he got traction with Kane.
I gotta confess,
sorry, but I'm very proud of her for knowing that. That's right. We watched.
I only know the Kane answer because of CM Retro. He posted it in the chat.
Oh.
That's what I knew.
There you go. That's all right. I'm a little slow. They never did figure out who Mr. America was. It's a mystery to this day. There you go. Bo-Katan's Night Owl Mandalorians. Thank you. CM Retro would know that for sure. I watch his videos on the Lego. I can't even tell you what her name is. Kara Saul. I tried to find one of those Lego sets, and I couldn't after you showed them that day with all the ones. I would love to have had one, but I could never find one up here.
Yeah. CM Retro also said Kane was also the Christmas creature.
Oh, my God. Yeah, this is Caper Dave talking about that. Yeah, I remember watching that Raw in Montreal. It's goosebumps all over. Yeah, there we go. Rock playing Canadian football in Calgary. Yeah, I think it was Calgary. I do. They were big early 80s. It was almost before the WrestleMania days. I think the Machine's gimmick was over before. It was somebody. It was like Andre the Giant was banned from wrestling and became the Giant Machine. It's like everybody didn't know what it was. That's all. And I do remember this one. I still will tell you right to this day, Walking Tall with The Rock is okay, but the original with Oh Christ, what's his name, guys? The original Walking Tall movie. You've seen it, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who was the actor.
Brew Baker? No.
Oh, oh shoot, I can see him.
That's the one, Chris, right there. I was trying to find it, but of course they're long gone. They're pulled off the shelves.
I like that he threw in the Lego set number.
Hey, he knows the stuff. CM, I've got some stuff to show you. I was up at a friend's place. I'm working on a video. It was May 1st is when I recorded it. There's a friend I did a game room tour of it. He also collects a lot of Lego. And I thought he had an awesome setup, and I will share that with you someday, some of the stuff I saw. Like big walls of racks of all with several drawers of different size bricks and such. And the stuff he had was just like, oh, my God.
I saw those pictures. It looked like Legoland.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was amazing.
And that was just in a little side storeroom, like off of the main game room, with the complete SNES, the complete NES, the complete N64, the complete TurboGrafx, the complete Virtual Boy, the complete Game Boy Advance he's working on now. So,
love Game Boy Advance.
Land Speeder, Obi-Wan. The ones that I showed, I had a couple pickups there. Mama C picked those up for me. She said, you should get them if you want to get them, but she's upset with me because I haven't taken them apart, put them together yet. She says, I'm not going to buy any more Lego if you're not going to put them together, and they're still sitting. They're right here somewhere.
Here, Lance came up with Joe Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker. You are correct, sir. Yes, sir. And that is a fantastic movie. The original Walking Tall. So it's good that they remade it. It's a good choice to remake for The Rock. He could fit that role okay, but it wasn't a super, super strong remake. It was like, I think it was like an hour and 16 minutes too, which is like bizarre short for a major motion picture.
Wait, which one? The first or second one?
No, the second, the one with The Rock.
Wow, anything under an hour 30 is very odd. It's not even for a major motion picture. They're usually like, hour 40, hour 45.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, sort of like under an hour and a half is questionable. The Rundown. I enjoyed The Rundown, though, even more than Walking Tall. That was with Sean William Scott, who I like Sean William Scott as well. Like Stifler from the American Pie movies. My God, that's aging, too. Think about that. The American Pie movies are probably, 25 years old?
That's crazy.
Oh.
Pete, why isn't Mama C on the show?
Why? Because she's chilling upstairs.
She's really contributing here. She should just be on the show.
She always contributes. A new set on sale this week at Costco. There you go. But I want that Cara Dune set. Maybe CM Retro will give you a good deal on one. Right on. Good. Right on. I just don't know that much about them. I do like them, but it's like, how much can I collect?
You see, Lance Kane is now the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Think he dresses up? Because that'd be awesome.
Well, I know you have Peacock, so go on and watch the Hall of Fame ceremonies from the WrestleMania just gone past, because Kane is inducted. He's the final induction, and they talk about him being the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
Well, I saw him at WrestleMania when they all came out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that, though.
Right on.
He should at least put the old Kane outfit on Halloween and hand out candy at the town hall. That'd be great. Did you like that one?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. Chris agrees. He walks into the chamber meeting. Boom, and the pyro goes off. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true. Okay. And everything rolls around. We talk about Sean William Scott was great in the Goon movies as a bouncer. And there's a sequel to the Goon, which is called. Anyway, the sequel to the Goon is directed by Jason Eisener, director of Dark Side of the Ring. So everything sort of works its way back around.
How about that?
So we're up to quarter two. So Jeff, this is putting you on the spot, but what is your favorite episode of Dark Side of the Ring so far?
I'm gonna have to go with. I really liked, even though it was really sad, I liked the killing of Bruiser Brody episode. It was cool seeing his wife and kid.
Yes.
Especially when they're going through like the storage locker of him, all this stuff. And the last of Von Erich's. But both of those were like really sad. Well, I guess that's the whole point of this show, though. Dark Side.
A lot of them are, right?
Dark Side of the Ring. But I just, and maybe because I grew up watching these guys, but I just like that, especially the Von Erich. When you watch Kevin Von Erich, I can't imagine that life of losing all your brothers by the time you're what, 40?
Yep. Oh.
And it's a testament to him that he is still here.
I agree.
And you got what, 4 brothers that killed themselves?
Yeah.
Whew. What a life, man. That is rough. But what about you, Pete? What's your favorite?
Well, I'm trying to think of why. I have one, and I'm going to say why as well. Now, I don't think that there's an episode out there that I don't like. They're all fantastic. Incredibly well done, incredibly interesting. They keep your attention. 45 minutes goes by just like that. I would say the Chris Benoit one, except for like you're saying, they're all sad. The vast majority of them are sad, right? The Chris Benoit one was very well done. Kind of left a little bit to be desired, left a little bit untold at the end. I like the Bruiser Brody one. I like the Owen Hart one, but I thought the Owen Hart one could have told a lot more. So I'm going to go with Brian Pillman as being my favorite. I'm going to tell you why is growing up, you sort of look at these people as larger than life, these wrestlers, which are superstars, celebrities. And that is a very sad story because you got, his dying by drug overdose. You have the train wreck that is his second wife. You have the suicide of his first wife. The 3 children that are sort of, one's lost both parents. One still has their mother. One has the mother, which is a train wreck. But the thing that I liked about that show the most is it sort of let you see that these people who we sort of look at, like everybody watches, oh my God, they're these superstars. It shows the reality of the tragedy that is their lives. But because there really is a lot of tragedy in these lives. But the sister, Brian Pillman's sister, was my favorite part of that show because she seemed like the most down-to-earth, common, good-hearted person I've ever seen. And then it all ends up with how she took it upon herself after these kids' entire lives came crashing down around them at very young ages and has kept them all together. And basically the show ends with the 4 of them together. And I really liked the way they ended that show more than anything because it did have a little bit of positivity in it, whereas a lot of these stories there just really isn't any positivity to tell.
Yeah, she was an interesting character because she did her best to keep his kids together.
Yeah. But didn't she seemed to me to be a person who would just be the matriarchal family member.
Oh, definitely. She was
any family, any common family.
You can tell she's definitely in charge of that family. She's the one who was making things happen.
So,
and he had that car crash. I can't remember if you mentioned that, but I mean, right as he was about to head off to WWF with a big contract, he gets in that car crash.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember when that happened. Like back in the 90s, I was working and I would read wrestling books at that time. Internet existed, but I don't even know if we had it in this town yet at this point, like 90. 95, 96. It was around, but it was very minimal what you could do. So everything was wrestling magazines, and then you read wrestling magazines. And I remember that happening. And man, it's just like, how much more could, but they sort of make their bed and they put themselves in these situations where it happens, right?
Well, what's really a shame with his story is he could have had a career like Jerry Lawler there at the end, where he became or Jesse Ventura, where he became an announcer.
Yeah.
And if he would have just forgotten about wrestling and did that, it probably would have been a much better life. I mean, I just saw an interview with Jesse Ventura. He was talking about how much better he enjoyed and he liked announcing than wrestling, because he said he'd only work a few hours a week.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have to travel every night.
Yep.
I mean, it sounded like a great life. He said he loved it. He said he made a ton of money.
He was good at it too.
Yeah. You know, that's one thing about, I was just watching WrestleMania, is it Aftermath? That
Okay. Yeah.
And it hit me. I was like, one thing I don't like about current wrestling, that's kind of funny, is it's the announcers. I don't know who these guys are. I've been listening to them now for the past few months. I don't know who they are. Every so often, someone will act like they're rooting for the bad guys, and someone else will act like they're rooting for the good guys. But it's not like it used to be. It's much different. And
I don't care for them. The ones like this, Corey Graves and Byron Sexton, and
I don't know who they are.
Michael Cole is fine. Michael Cole's been around forever, but these other guys,
it's not like they're bad announcers. It's not interesting. Like Gorilla, I mean, how can you go from Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura to what we have now? It's just nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were classics.
Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Right. Even Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were just, it was Raw. They were, when you thought about the show Raw, you thought about those two guys announcing it. Now Raw,
I don't feel like the announcers, are really that, they're not a big part of the show anymore.
No.
I used to love just listening to Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. They were so interesting.
Yeah, me too. So, well, Mike, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah,
Bobby was the most incredible heel announcer. Yeah. I mean, they used to do those skits and stuff. I remember, where the hell did I say it? It was Primetime Wrestling, which was on Monday nights, long before Raw ever existed. This is the 80s. And Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan would host it, and they'd be in a studio hosting it, and then they just, now we're off to a match. Someone like me, friggin' Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Iron Mike Sharp from Madison Square Garden in Toronto, and they show a match, and then they do a skit where it was, Heenan was just an entertainer, and man, you love to hate him.
Lance Jennings just said announcers can help get the talent over. And I don't know if anyone did it better than Mean Gene on those interviews.
Yeah.
He was amazing on the interviews.
Yeah, I agree.
He was,
Sure.
it was so funny. Usually the guy interviewing kind of takes a step back so that the wrestler can shine, but it was almost like they were equal in a way, because Mean Gene was so great at interviewing and just saying weird things at strange times too. He would just say some weird stuff that would just make you crack up.
Yeah. So what did you already say one thing? You talked about the midget wrestling, which we'll see, but is there any one incident or one thing that you're thinking about that you'd like to see that isn't down the pipe yet?
Oh, that's a good one.
Should have told you about that one earlier, because
now this is going to be see, I don't know. I was going to pick a wrestler, but I don't know if he has a dark side to of the ring though. But being in St. Louis, I would love to see something on Dick the Bruiser. Yeah. I thought he was an interesting character. Pro football player briefly. I mean, when I was watching him, he had to be in his 60s. I mean, the guy was really old. I mean, for a wrestler out there.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of this old man strong. He had this like barrel chest. And I told a story once when Hercules Hernandez first started. I think it was his first year. He wrestled Dick the Bruiser here in St. Louis. And Bruiser just beat the hell out of him. It was so funny. It was just, I mean, Hernandez didn't have a chance. And sometimes I wonder if that stuff's real because the Undertaker's first match was against Bruiser Brody.
Okay.
And he was going by
Mark Calloway.
Mark
Callis.
Yeah, Mark Callis or oh no, he may have been like the Red Rider or another. But he told a story about how he said something to Brody before the match, and Brody didn't appreciate it because Brody was very much like by the book guy. It's like, I'm the veteran. I'm going to be leading this match, and you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to tell you what to do. And Undertaker made the mistake of kind of suggesting something for them to do. And he said Brody just went out and just beat the hell out of him after that happened because he didn't appreciate anything he had to say. And I watched the match. I went back and watched it, and he did. It was just so one-sided. He just completely beat the hell out of him. And I tend to think that was more real than a normal wrestling match.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe that's that aspect of it or something. It's not taboo. Season 2, episodes 1 and 2, a 2-parter on Chris Benoit. Chris, it's heavy. Well done though, right, Jeff? You saw that one?
Oh yeah, it's that's another one. I'm not sure what to make of the guy because on one hand, you kill your wife and kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something a monster does.
Yep.
But then they were talking that they think he had some kind of brain damage and maybe he wasn't in his right mind at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of feel sorry in a way that maybe he wasn't thinking straight. Maybe he couldn't think straight, and that caused him to kill them. It's just an odd thing because
there's nothing in his history that leads to that behavior. It's like something snapped.
Yeah, that's what's so weird. And
I mean, overall damage and stuff, like over time, his character changed a little bit, but it's certainly not to that extent. It was like, I got to agree with you, man. Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, certainly arguable.
Boy, Elizabeth really died young, didn't she? Wasn't she in her 50s?
42.
42? Jeez.
42. That was the same. That happened the same weekend. We went down to Halifax to watch Raw and SmackDown that I was talking about earlier because that first night, you know how they always put the tribute card up before the show?
Mm-hmm.
It was in memory of Elizabeth Hewlett. She had died that weekend.
Wow.
On the big screen at the Raw I went to.
So do you have an episode you'd like to see them make, Pete?
Well, I'd like to see them maybe doing on the dungeon, Bret Hart dungeon, but although it's not dark enough, right? Okay, yes, I do have one. I thought of this. I said, okay, I asked this question. I had a thought in my mind. I forgot all about it. I would like to see them do one on, I can't tell you the name of the tournament, but there was a death match tournament in Tokyo or Japan back in the early 90s, late 80s, 16-man tournament that they went out. It was all outside, and it came right down to Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk, I believe, in the finals. And there was barbed wire, tubes, glasses, tacks, fluorescent tubes, and C4 explosives. They had explosives in between plywood, so if you slammed on plywood, it would blow up. And I actually had that. I had a bootleg copy of it, which I don't know. I probably, if I went digging, I could find it. It's probably, I have quite a few wrestling tapes right in that room right there. But I think that would make a show on that would make a good Dark Side of the Ring. Because I'm sorry, like we talked about earlier, Chris saying this exploitation. There's just something about that style of wrestling that, do we really friggin' need that? And that's pretty friggin' dark.
That is, yeah. I really have no interest in watching them really getting hurt.
Yeah,
it's not really fun anymore.
And
hurt.
I don't want it because, oh boy, I can't wait to see them blow up. It's like, it was almost like, okay, this is Terry friggin' Funk and Mick friggin' Foley in this, whatever the hell you're going to call it. And yeah, it was interesting. And I did watch it. The tape isn't very good, mind you. And I don't know if you'd ever find a better copy, but it's very different. And the other avenue would be sort of like along the Nick Gage line. You could do something on this backyard wrestling rage that was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as big now as it was, but there's a lot of backyard wrestling around the smaller cities, or the bigger cities, the suburbs of Canada and the United States in the 2000s, early 2010s. I got friggin' Xbox games, Backyard Wrestling 1, Backyard Wrestling 2. It's like, that's crazy. That would also make for an interesting show, as well as stuff on the Necro Butcher would be an incredible show. Like, what this Necro Butcher, the little bit I've heard him do interviews and stuff, he seems like an ordinary, intelligent guy. Then he goes out there and gets staples to the head, you know?
It's almost as if they like the pain.
Yeah.
The guys doing that kind of wrestling.
So, like,
not sure how that works, but
they kind of went there this year already with the Nick Gage story, and maybe that's like, we're going to go do one, so this is what we're going to do. But there's other things that can be done there in future seasons for sure. Plus, I'll take anything. I'd be happy to see anything that I know absolutely nothing about, because every story they've told, Gino Hernandez, never friggin' heard of him. The show was awesome.
It was, and there's stuff coming up this season that I don't know anything about.
You talked about whoever that guy said you might know him. He's Canadian. No, never heard of him. Can't wait for that one now. We're going to see something totally new.
I think Roddy Piper would make a nice episode.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. He was wrestling at 15. Huh? He didn't have a very good upbringing, so I think there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, we've been 2 hours now, and it's a lot of friggin' fun. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, all you guys. Oh yeah, like that. This is the ICP. Juggalo Wrestling was huge back then, and yeah, crazy stuff. So tomorrow night on Go Game Go, what do you got for us, Jeff?
Movie night. We are talking. Basically, it's like Desert Island movies. Movies where these are the only movies you're going to watch for the rest of your life. Like, which ones did you pick to watch over and over and over? And you'll be on there, Pete.
I'm coming. Who else? You guys? Other special guests, Stu.
Stuart, of course, will be there. Barr is on vacation, so he won't be there. Lance Jennings, right here in the chat, is coming back a third week in a row, just like you on the show. And we also have, I don't think I saw him in the chat today, but we have JD showing up. This will be his first time on the show. He's in our chat all the time.
Right up. Yep.
So it'll be fun. We'll have, talking about some of our favorite movies that.
And I'm going to make.
Mama C going to be on?
Well, I don't know.
Weren't we going to have them on?
We're saying we're going to have them on sometime soon.
I guess tomorrow will be soon.
Tomorrow will be soon. Yeah, well, let's do it. We'll plan one coming up there. We'll have Christine, Celia, and Mama C on next one. Luke, you're here just in time to sign off, buddy. Oh. That one was done as well. That one, they did do an episode on that. Yeah. There's a lot of
those have an episode.
Yeah. Right on. Anyway, guys, on my channel, I have caught up on all the stuff that I already had recorded for my pickup videos. But as you can see behind me, this big wall of green, I have that's from my big pickup that I made I was talking about it tonight, the same person who has the Lego back on May 1st. I've been working on recording videos of those. There's too many games there to do in one video, so I think I'm going to do a little series with this particular pickup. It's going to be a great, huge pickup for the Xbox collection and some pretty good games in the batch as well. So I'm working on that. I've got a couple other videos recorded just the other night to show first, and then we'll go into the series with this one right here. And before I start posting these, I'm going to post the actual game room tour from this fella's, probably the absolute best game room in Atlantic Canada. And if I get, I'll pop a few pictures in there maybe too of all the Lego stuff he had as well, because Lego's neat. I mean, everybody's got history and memories of having Lego with their kids, and when you can combine it with all the different, I walked through Toys R Us last weekend, and I thought, I found myself walking down the Lego aisle looking at all the different sets, which I hadn't done in 40 years. But anyway, so that's what's coming up next on my channel, and then hopefully I'll have another episode of the 125 probably within 4 or 5 weeks. That's a pretty major project as well. So anyway, guys, thank you, Jeff, for joining in again tonight, coming. And as for what goes on next Tuesday night, don't know yet, but I'll be here at 9 o'clock Papa Pete time. That's 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific next Tuesday night. Any last words, Jeff?
Yeah, if I'll just read what Mike said. Yeah, tune in tomorrow if you want to see Papa Pete again. It'll be on our show.
Right on.
Same time as tonight.
Right on. All right, guys.
Real quick. Perry made a quick.
Perry finally made an appearance.
And just the nick of time, Perry, because the show's over.
And we'll slide over here. Oh.
Perry, look, a cat.
And we got Coco.
A cat, Perry. Here. Perry's very uninterested.
Anyway, guys, you take care.
We'll see ya.